Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai's World News. We're kicking things off today with a massive moment for the global fashion industry. Fast fashion titan Shein is gearing up to go public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, with its shares set to begin trading on the 1st of September. Both BBC News and the Financial Times are reporting that the company is targeting a valuation of nearly $27 billion. Now that sounds enormous, and it is, but here's the thing. It's actually around 3/4 lower than the peak valuation Shein was riding just a couple of years ago. The company had previously tried to list in New York and then London, but both of those attempts fell through. Hong Kong is now the chosen stage for what is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched IPOs of the year. Shein, of course, built its empire on ultra-low-cost clothing sold directly to consumers around the world, and the market will be watching very closely to see how investors respond when those shares finally hit the board on September 1st. Staying in Asia, and this next story is raising some serious eyebrows in the automotive world. BBC News is reporting that close to 3 million Tesla vehicles are being recalled in China due to concerns about concealed door handles. For those who don't know, some modern electric vehicles use flush or retractable door handles as a design feature. But the worry here is that in an emergency, people may struggle to open the doors, which is obviously a major safety issue. And Tesla isn't alone in this. The recall also sweeps up vehicles from prominent Chinese automakers, including Xpeng, Xiaomi, and Geely, all flagged for similar concerns. China is, of course, one of the largest automotive markets in the world, so a recall of this scale is significant, both for consumer safety and for the reputations of the brands involved. Regulators appear to be taking a firm stance, and manufacturers will be under pressure to move quickly on fixes. Now let's shift to the global economy, because there's a lot of unease building in financial markets right now. The Financial Times is reporting that U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh is working to ease investor anxiety as troubling signals continue to emerge across the American economy. This comes as central bankers and economists from around the world prepare to descend on the famous Jackson Hole Symposium in Wyoming, an annual gathering that often sets the tone for monetary policy in the months ahead. Here's the tension. Economists are increasingly critiquing Warsh's communication style, saying his messaging has been unclear and inconsistent at a time when markets desperately need clarity. Meanwhile, a separate FT survey of analysts finds that forecasters broadly expect the Fed and the Bank of England to hold interest rates steady for the rest of the year, while the European Central Bank and the Bank of Japan are expected to move rates higher. The stakes at Jackson Hole couldn't be higher, and all eyes will be on what signals Warsh and other policymakers send when they take to the podium. On the geopolitical front, Ukraine is receiving a major show of solidarity from its European partners. The Financial Times is reporting that multiple European leaders have traveled to Kyiv to personally pledge additional military support as Russia continues its bombardment campaign. Among those commitments, UK Prime Minister Burnham is pledging British backing for the construction of long-range missiles within Ukraine itself, a significant escalation in the nature of Western support. The Financial Times notes that Burnham is deliberately shrugging off warnings from Moscow, with this visit marking his first overseas trip since taking office. This flurry of diplomatic activity comes as Ukraine marks another grim milestone in its ongoing fight for survival. The message from Europe is unmistakable. Support for Kyiv is not fading. For Russia, the continued deepening of military cooperation between Ukraine and European nations represents a strategic challenge that shows no sign of easing. This next story is genuinely alarming, and if you've eaten cabbage recently, you might want to stick around. BBC News is reporting that Chinese authorities have launched an investigation into the use of formaldehyde, a known carcinogen, to keep cabbages fresh during storage and transport. Yes, you heard that right. Formaldehyde, the same chemical used in laboratories and embalming, is reportedly being used to extend the shelf life of vegetables. This is explicitly banned under Chinese food safety law, and using it in food is illegal. China is, notably, the world's largest producer of cabbages, so the scale of potential exposure here is significant. Authorities are now probing how widespread this practice is and who is responsible. Food safety scandals in China often have ripple effects across global supply chains, And this one is almost certain to intensify public scrutiny of agricultural practices both domestically and abroad. It's a stark reminder of the challenges regulators face in monitoring food safety at massive scale. 5 years. That's how long it has been since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan. And BBC News has secured rare and remarkable access to senior Taliban figures to document exactly how they are reshaping the country. The report touches on deeply personal aspects of everyday Afghan life now under Taliban governance: restrictions on divorce, the stranglehold on smartphone use, and the broader mechanisms of control that regulate how ordinary Afghans live, work, and communicate. The BBC's correspondent was able to follow senior Taliban officials, offering an unusual window into how this movement governs in practice, not just an ideology. Afghanistan today remains one of the most isolated nations on earth, cut off from most international aid and recognition. Yet the Taliban have consolidated power in ways that show little sign of loosening. This is essential viewing and reading for anyone trying to understand one of the defining geopolitical stories of our era. And finally, a story that speaks to one of the defining economic competitions of our time. The Financial Times is reporting that the United States is dramatically widening its lead over Europe when it comes to artificial intelligence investment. According to the FT's analysis, American spending on high-tech infrastructure, data centers, chips, AI facilities, is accelerating at a pace that Europe simply cannot match right now. The bloc is struggling to attract the capital and build the industrial base needed to compete at the frontier of AI development. This gap has serious long-term implications. AI is increasingly central to economic productivity, national security, and technological leadership. European policymakers are aware of the problem, but translating awareness into action has proven difficult. Meanwhile, in the UK, there is a somewhat related bright spot. The Financial Times also reports that the Office for National Statistics is turning to AI tools to cut costs and save thousands of working hours per year, a sign that governments are at least beginning to integrate AI into their operations. The race is very much on, and right now, it's America leading by a widening margin. That's our show for today, everyone. A huge amount happening across the globe, and we'll keep bringing it to you every single day right here on Genai World News. If you found today's coverage valuable, do us a favor, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'll see you next time.